a lot of work is put in legislative work, but nobody ever appreciates it. And not even members of the public out there imagine that you only come here to speak for 5 minutes and vote without having applied your minds and put in a lot of work. Members of the Finance and National Planning Committee sat this morning until 5 a.m. from last night. And we must indeed commend the chair. You can see the chair is not looking his usual self. He looks a bit sleepy. If you also look at his vice chair, who was here as early as 9 a.m. together with the member for Keses, they all look sleepy, and the member for Baringo North. They look sleepy because I can see the Honorable Ariko. Actually, he was almost on the verge of sleeping off, because these members and many other members, including the Honorable Mboni, who is still in the House, sat up to 5 a.m. this morning to be able to finalize with this work and be able to give us the kind of output they have given us, and I must commend them. Honorable Speaker, as the chair has said and the mover, this bill speaks to very important issues. And I know, just like we had with the Business Laws Amendment Bill, members who never take time to interact with legislation pick up things from social media and speak to those issues as if they are things that are factual. And when you are a member of parliament, you speak about unfactual things in a manner that makes people believe that you know what you are speaking about. Like I had a member here speaking about avocado farmers in the previous bill on business laws. I think it was a member for Katanga. And clearly you can tell that is a member who has not taken his time at all to interact with the bill or even to bother to read the committee's report that was tabled yesterday. And if the member for Katanga had read, he would not use prime national TV time to mislead the public, to play populist politics, Honorable Speaker. And I thank the chair of the committee, because he came down very fast. We were watching him from my office, and he came down very fast, and he has responded to those issues as he responded. Honorable Speaker, many issues that were raised by members of the public, and that's why I was keen on having the mover of the bill speak to the issues that were raised by members of the public during public participation. Because even the courts have told us that public participation should not be superficial. It must be quantitative and qualitative. And the qualitative bit of it is being able to show members of the public that what you told us during public participation, we have taken those issues into account as we legislated, as we passed the bill. Therefore, we are not debating this bill in its original form. We are debating it in its original form as informed by the committee with what they have done. And I also wish to speak to a few things that the committee has spoken to. The digital service tax, Honorable Speaker, that was proposed, the committee is proposing in their report, for those who have bothered to read the report, to remove this digital service tax. For the simple reason that, for instance, as the chair would have told you, if you are selling iPhones online and somebody else is selling their iPhone from a shop, an establishment in town, if you happen to be charged the digital service tax that was being proposed, then nobody will be selling anything online. Everybody may opt to go and open up establishments or shops in town to sell where you not pay. And therefore, the committee is proposing that you remove that, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on air tickets again, on passenger, VAT on passenger air tickets. Again, the same thing. If I am running a tours and travel business in Nairobi, and somebody else is running the same business in Arusha, or I have a branch in Arusha, if you put VAT on that air ticket in Nairobi, I will opt to simply process the ticket online and charge that ticket from my Arusha office, and we'll be driving away employment from our country. And the committee diligently and with a lot of foresight have removed some of these things to do with air ticketing, VAT on air ticketing, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, many of our people are selling, and you've seen vendors selling tiles along our major roads, everywhere that people new housing schemes are coming up, or new settlement areas. If you go to Kitengela, Honorable Speaker, if you drive along Kiambu Road, if you drive along Kambura Mutarakwa Road, you will see very many small shops, hardware shops that have cropped up. And many of these shops crop up from selling tiles. And therefore, the proposal that was there to impose 35% excise duty on tiles, or 300 shillings per kilo of tiles. Honorable Speaker, that would have meant for a 25 kg box of tiles, the price would have gone up by 7,500 shillings. The committee has proposed to remove that and limit that in what the committee is proposing to either 5% or 200 shillings or whichever is higher. If I remember well, the chair will be speaking to that when he moves his amendments tomorrow. Honorable Speaker, I know the committee had proposed to remove the excise duty on coal, and we are in discussions with the chair because of issues, and I know coal is used as a raw material, especially in cement production, and we do not want our cement production to go up. But rather than removing the entire tax because of issues to do with global warming and climate change, Honorable Speaker, and the issue of carbon emissions, because coal is one of the culprits of carbon emissions, Honorable Speaker. And to discourage, we are in discussions with the chair, maybe we find a compromise where probably instead of removing entire tax, we can reduce the tax as was proposed. And I want to believe that you arrive at an agreement between the chair and the committee and the House as we move on, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we have proposals that the committee has also proposed on the taxation of alcohol to deal with the question, heavy question of illicit drinks and illicit alcohol in our country. Because, Honorable Speaker, we have taxed alcohol in terms of volumes and not the alcohol content in the past. And what has happened is that we have encouraged people to move away from beers to hard liquor that is cheaper. And that hard liquor that is cheaper also tends to be very harmful to people's health, Honorable Speaker. And that is why you see people go to buy those things they call Tunusu, Tukwata, and that Kakwata or Kanusu, Honorable Speaker, the alcohol content you find for some is at a high of 70, 75, 80%. Whereas the beer that some people here enjoy, Honorable Speaker, I can only tell you the content of milk in my tea. But I know, for instance, many beers at the rate of 4 to 4.5%. And the committee is proposing, well, I can see the Honorable Oundo smiling. I don't know if he wants to disagree on the alcohol content on beer. I have considered, I do not know the content of alcohol in beer. I am not a partaker of those things. But, Honorable Speaker, I was speaking to the issue that the committee is proposing. Let us tax the alcohol content in all alcoholic drinks, so that if a drink has 40% alcohol content, tax will be higher than the tax in your ordinary beer or another drink, alcoholic drink, that has 2% or 3% alcohol. And that will generate more income, discourage people from getting into the illicit brews that have a very high level of alcohol content and which in many instances is unchecked. Honorable Speaker, there is also the question that the committee I've seen has proposed on withholding tax, especially even on for manufacturers who are being asked to pay their withholding tax within a period, I think, of 24 hours. And now the committee is proposing that this is done within the first 5 business or working days after the end of the month. And this, Honorable Speaker, will not only allow also manufacturers to have a little bit more of working capital, but also reduce or increase the time for them to, or rather the time they have to remit this withholding tax. And Honorable Speaker, this will be a good thing for manufacturers because, as I mentioned, they also have a little bit of more time to utilize the resources that they have withheld as part of their working capital, which will come at no cost to them. But after the 5 working days, they will be levied a penalty and interest if they do not pay. Honorable Speaker, one of the other issues when this bill was published that many people spoke about and those who appeared before the public participation across the counties where the chair and the vice chair led their teams in the Finance and National Planning Committee was the question of our game parks and game reserves, that you are levying VAT on park fees. And Honorable Speaker, I remember watching on TV one of the 2 operators telling the committee, and I'm glad that the committee agreed with them, that the animals that we go to, is it to watch or to view or to do what? The animals that we see at Masai Mara Game Reserve are the same animals that migrate to Serengeti. The lion in the Mara is the same lion in Serengeti. Therefore, if you levy park fees, VAT on park fees in Masai Mara, what will happen is that tourists will move away from Masai Mara and they will simply opt to book and go to Serengeti across the River Mara. And the wild beast migration, Honorable Speaker, you know, is the migration of those wild beasts from Serengeti to the Mara, from the Mara back to the Serengeti. It's the same animals. So we have no reason, if in the region our neighbors are not levying VAT on park fees, to make our parks more expensive than those of our neighbors, so that we don't discourage people to move to our neighboring countries. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with people going to the Serengeti or other parks in the neighborhood. But of course, our Masai Mara is the best destination in the whole world. And even our neighbors know and they concede. And that is why we must encourage many tourists around the world to visit the Mara. After the Mara, then you can follow the animals into Serengeti. But you start with the Mara before you go to Serengeti. And Honorable Speaker, that is because we are the most hospitable people in the world. And it is known. And you know, we also have the most beautiful animals, including those wild beasts and lions. Honorable Speaker, the other issue I'd want to speak to, let me not speak on the issue that the chair already spoke to on the e-teams invoices and all that, some of which we had touched on in the morning, the avocados and agricultural inputs.